Alrighty. Oh, there we go. Now we're up and running. Cool. It's kind of late. I don't think I'm gonna have a lot of time to do grandiose things, but what I do want to do is maybe set up some sort of some sort of an interface for inventory, and then maybe give the player the ability to collect collect some sort of a mushroom collectible. Um, let's open up the player, double check the size. Ooh, these hands, man. I need to do something about those fingertips. They look kind of trashy. Also, this fabric simulation is interesting. Okay, so the height is 1.75 meters. Okay. I'm going to scale this down. That's roughly about the size of the player. So with that in mind, we can put together some sort of a mushroom type deal. But yeah, so we need something small. So okay, now we have done some interesting experiments with making, what is it? What do we do? We made the high poly mushroom, and then we did retopology to create the low poly. All of that is pretty cool, but I don't think we need to go that far with something that is just basically an item. Hey, hey, good day, Vishal. Welcome. Okay. You need to apply scale. Yes. There we go. Okay. I wonder if there's a shortcut to display wireframe on top of the object, like when you're in solid mode and then you want to switch to wire or display a wireframe on top of it. That'll be useful. Okay. Let's reduce the resolution. Okay, that works. I think before applying this, maybe we should save this. Do a couple of versions. Go. You got quad remesh. Yep. Isn't great. What? What's wrong with quad remesh? I thought it was working out pretty well. In my case, at least. gonna make one that's more or less just pointing straight up. It's awesome. Okay, good. Got me worried there. It's like, what the hell did I spend my money on? Okay. So this is looking all right. Fill caps, copy to selected. And you know what? I'm gonna duplicate this original. Mm-hmm. Just have a big eyeball. It's looking at you back on the mushroom top. All right. Convert to mesh. Join this. Join here. Join there. Yes. Do you know what that board that clips is called in English? A clipboard? I had a bit of an aneurysm about that yesterday. Okay. These are going to be our... Ooh, okay. Interesting. I think I need to merge by distance. Yes, okay. Yeah, so these are going to be... Ah, man. I need to give them rounded bottoms, but it looks like the fill caps is misbehaving a bit. Shouldn't have done that. Okay. Now we can do it. Perfect. Evening. I think the whole thing can be smooth. Yeah, sure, that's fine. All right, let's save this. Where do we save this? Sublinaris, assets, models, foliage. This isn't really foliage, it's more of an item. I guess, yeah, let's do that. Inventory items. Oh, we already have one. Okay. So this is mushroom. Give me a unique name for this mushroom. Based on what it looks like. Dimple mushroom? What do you think I should call this? Maybe dimple mushroom. In case we decide to do another one. Cool. Just gonna lower this down a bit so that the center is nice and in the middle. All right. Export. Engine models, inventory items. OBJ, and then export. 4 files. You suck at something. Limit to selected. Exported the cube as well. All right. Oh, damn it! They're all called Bezier curves. Okay. Work thumbsticks. Ah, yes. This mushroom is called second-hand 360 controller. You get the guest controller. That's what it is. All right. Cool. So let's give it. I guess we want things to fall down, so we're still keeping the same approach to items as we did with. What is it? With Dreadtail. Okay. Temple. Mushroom. Fresh instance. The shit? Why are you sideways? Why is this mushroom all flaccid? What happened? Set location, set rotation. Shift F2, Control F2, use more renaming options. You liar. This is tracking. Maybe it's in 4. Control F2, right. So that's the batch renaming system here. Okay. Oh, you know what? The rotation is off by 90 degrees, so that's why. So let's just export that again. Fix yourself. Thank you. Objects. Inventory items. Dimple mushroom. Okay. Cool. Do I have a generic item? Generic inventory item. Yes. And we just apply it here. It has item ID. Grab location, grab rotation. That should be irrelevant now, since we have hands. Grab location, grab rotation. I don't think we're using that even on... What is it? The mining gun, which we have yet to make a takeout animation for. The grabby gun. Oh, there is some data here. But I don't know if we're actually still using it since we've added hands. Grab location, grab rotation. That might be for VR. Okay, I don't actually remember. Let me see if we're using it somewhere. Player VR hand. Closest grabbable, grab rotation. That is exactly what that is for. All right. Fair enough. Leave that be. Dimple mushroom. Hand gesture. Cool. Now, this item is supposed to be stationary in the beginning, so we're gonna mark it off. Physics, deactivation, sleeping, freeze. Freeze mode static, yes. Okay. You know what? Let's give it a nice simple shape. Mm-hmm. Now, we are going to extend the script. Right? Because we actually want to have a random selection of the model. Okay. For now, we'll do it in the ready. I know that if we pick up a mushroom number 3, it should just stay as mushroom number 3. Mm-hmm. That should do it. Do you think of creating mobile games? There are some games that are on my to be addressed in the future list. Some of them have stories that I've written like years ago that would make perfect mobile games. They're like serious, story-driven, non, drain you of all your money type games. They're basically, desktop but on mobile, right? The full-fledged desktop games but on mobile. So at some point, yeah, I think I can do that. I think Artag Rise could actually um, uh, be played on the mobile game, and it would be like a fully fledged game for sure. I'd have to have to come back to that project and strip out a bunch of stuff. Okay. Do I have an orange material? Dev. There we go. Beautiful. Okay. So what do we want to do this? I think this time around, for picking things up, I'm just going to do a button press, no hold. And I think we might even do that with a left click. And we'll reserve the E key for interacting. So you could have an inventory item that you drop and deploy, and you still want to interact with it, like a flashlight of some kind. Or a beacon, right? You want to be able to turn it on and off. So I think left click is going to be perfectly fine for collecting it, in which case we're going to give it a group, inventory item group. And for now, we'll focus on the desktop version. Just the basics. Intersect ray. Okay. Interact process. If it's not null. If this is an interactable, if it's in the group called interact group, populate the text. Okay, and then if interact collider is in group, inventory item group, interact label. Sure, for now we'll just do this. We'll just say take. Okay. Sure, probably should handle taking in here. And how do we take? Well, we gotta have an inventory. We do. We gotta find the first available slot in the inventory, which I think we've learned to put that into the master node. Is player inventory slot empty? Give item to inventory slot. So we get the player. Uh-huh. It's the app between Purif and Winpinator. It's Wi-Fi file sharing solution so I can transfer stuff between PC and Steam Deck. Dude be scouting my taskbar. Okay. Let's do func find first available INV slot. Okay. Get the player. And then we need to know how many inventory slots we have. Item slot 3D. Hotbar width, hotbar height. Hotbar slots. Interesting. So I don't have it? Let's say we're gonna have 30. 4x in player dot max inventory slots. We are going to check if player inventory has X in it. If it does have X in it, continue. Else, the slot is free, return X. And then I think when we return out of a function, the for loop just stops. I don't think we need a break after that. Okay. Now, what if we go through this whole thing and there is nothing? In that case, we're going to return null. Alrighty. Give item to inventory slot. Slot number, inventory key, and then amount is going to be set to 1 by default. Which means we should do this. Assume that items have an amount key value pair. And then we set the amount here. Okay. Going back here, picking up the item. Place item into first available inventory slot. So master node dot find first available inventory slot. free slot, and then if this is not null, then, well, then we need to talk to the inventory, and then talk to the free slot, make it equals to the item data from the interactable collider, and then queue free the item data. Yeah. Okay, now there's going to be holes that we'll have to patch. Like, what if we have inventory limits, slot limits? That's fine. And what else do we need? Well, we need the actual item. Right, so we're not actually going to be copying the item data from the item. Shall we do that? Yeah, no, we can do that. Because, for example, we can have a hydrogen fuel cell, 3 of them in the floating in space, and then one of them is full, the other ones are empty, so they need to have their own item data. Cool, that's fine. Now, does our mushroom code grab the data? It does not. We have to do that right now. All right. So item data is going to contain master node, item database, item ID. Cool. Which means now we need to make sure the dimple mushroom actually exists in the item database. Ready? Item ID, same as the key. Item name, dimple mushroom, icon. Right. Let's conjure something up real quick. Cool. Engine sprites, UI, inventory items. Okay. Dimple mushroom. So icon is this one. The scene is the TUSN file. And that should be technically it. Now, just gonna place some down here. Oh, what the heck? A bajillion errors. Psych. All right. Oh, this is interesting. Right, yeah, our camera isn't perfectly in the middle, so we no longer rotate just the camera. Okay, that's understandable. How's C++ learning coming along? Pretty good. I've gotten a application. What is it? MIDI signal application working. It accepts MIDI data from a music program. So that was successful. Gonna continue working with that. Something I'm gonna try to do is I have some USB serial devices, adapters, and I'm gonna try to see if I can communicate with the LED strip, addressable LED strip directly without having to use a microcontroller as an in-between. Why are you complaining? An incoming node's name clashes with scatter scene tool vent already in. Can I just read it, please? Already in the scene, presumably from more nested instances. The less nested node will be renamed. Interesting. All right. Now, why couldn't I see this? Inventory item group is what we're looking at. Okay. So let's go here. If it's in the inventory item group, we should be displaying the word take. And then if we, oh, well, we need to wait for a button press. We're not actually using interact though, are we? We're using left. We're using like left interact. But we don't have, yeah, we have it here. Send, look up, look down, previous tool. Suit, exit. I guess we can do left click. Left mouse. Everything in here is some sort of a element, some sort of an action. Here, left mouse is not really an action. So this would be more like, just call it left action for the time being. Okay, so if left action is just pressed, then we do this whole thing. But I'm still curious as to why we don't see this. Interact array. Let's get ourselves a developer panel if we haven't done so already. Master node global UI. Yeah. Let's do a user interface, which should be a canvas layer. Dev panel. We're not going to make the mistakes we did before. We're just going to make it a separate panel right away. VBox container. And then rich text label, or actually just label. Okay. Raycast interact object. Okay. We're going to attach a script. It's going to go here. Make a folder called dev. Okay, and then in the ready function, we need to acquire the player. Or I guess we could just do on ready. Get nodes and group. Yep. Object dev. So we get the player. And then in the player, we can get node. This one. Copy path. Okay. If it is colliding, we're going to get the collider. And then if the collider is not null, just in case, we are going to say to display the whatever's in that collider. Okay. And otherwise, she's going to say null. And then we're going to make this dev panel be a singleton. Objects dev panel. And yeah, that should exist on top of everything. Let's give it a nice large layer number. And I don't see anything. Let's try that again. Yeah, interesting. Okay, that is unrelated. We're not going to get sidetracked. Did I? Oh, I did do a dum-dum. I didn't actually add it. Okay, not exists function get node on base array. Player. Right. I got to get the first node in the group, not the whole array of nodes. Okay, get node on base null instance. Lovely, which again makes sense because the singleton starts before the player's even created. So we're gonna have to do this. If player is null, we're going to get first node in the group. And we have to also check how many nodes there are. Go. So if the size is above 0, if it is null and size is above 0, get the first node, and then I guess only then when it's not null, then we allow it to address the player. Okay. There we go. Now, right now it says Ray, and then nothing. That means this never got updated. Mushy. Hell yeah. Underwater mushies. Interesting. Hold on. Is the player even in that group? Local player group. Alrighty. You know what? We're gonna go ahead and account for the fact that sometimes we might run this in the place where the player doesn't exist. So it starts as null. If it's null and there's more than 0 things in there, get the first item. There we go. Now we got it. Okay. Now technically when I fly up to this thing, it does say vessel, enter hatch. Is this interact ray limited to a collision layer? Yes. It's limited to collision layer 7, which is interactables. Huh. Interesting. Okay. So I guess we'll just have to place this on the collision layer of 7, which is interactables. There we go. So lost in all this code. Well, it also doesn't help that, you know, we're starting in the middle of already existing code. So, you know, it's a rough entry point. Okay, now I gotta say, I'm not a fan of having to set everything to interactable layer 7. Does Godot handle hot reloading better than Unity? I have never used Unity, so I have no idea. It does allow you, as far as I am aware, to edit code while the game is running, and edit scenes as well. I think to a particular limitation, but it does work. Okay. Now, why, oh why, did I decide to do this? Put it only on layer 7. Probably because I wanted this raycast to only affect one thing. Let's do elif. If it's in the group of inventory item group. Okay, is the grabby gun on layer 7? It is not. So we'd never be able to pick it up. Item ID is not where we're supposed to be storing the information. It's supposed to be item data. Okay, glad I noticed that. Okay, now, this is interesting. We have two take labels. Now, I believe the one that's in front of us, that is the desktop one. And the text one, that's the VR one. So we're not really playing in VR. So we should be able to lock that off. VR mode. Yep. So I want VR interact label text to be disabled. Mm-hmm. Nice. Okay. Now, what do we use to actually pick this up? Left action, which isn't really assigned to anything. So can we do this? Mouse button 1. I think that should do it. Okay, well, it crashed. I mean, that's progress. And I'll get the index icon on base dictionary. Whoa, okay. Slot number 0. I mean, that makes sense. We should have an icon. Mapping menu. No. Master node. Icon. It is there. What is this game about? It's inspired by Subnautica, except I want to lean in more on the use of flight sticks and joysticks, because I was thoroughly disappointed at how few games that are, non-multiplayer War Thunder or DCS World there are that actually just, single player games that make use of the joystick. No Man's Sky doesn't support it. Like Just Cause doesn't support it. Like flight sticks. Why not? That would make so much fun. Go away. Yeah. Subnautica did not support it. And I was like, really? So I figured, okay, well, screw it. Just make my own game. And yeah, lean in on the use of flight controllers, flight sticks. Not exclusive, of course. You can still play it with desktop. But also VR support. And VR support in a way that isn't it's not just shoehorned on top of, let's say, desktop game where you just look around. I mean like true proper VR support. And this serves as an experiment to see what kind of hoops I'm going to have to jump through to make a game that is like a VR and desktop supported, and it's developed in a way where VR has VR specific applications and mechanics, and they're not just like look at something and just press the keyboard button, right? And this is going to be useful when I get to another project in the future that I would like to make VR and desktop compatible. So, bit of an experiment. Armored Core, No Man's Sky. Yeah, there's so many games that have flight mechanics that just say, you know what, no, don't want it. Too niche of a system, right? Too niche of a market. Which is kind of a shame, because there's, I bought the flight sticks and I'm like, what is there to play? There's nothing. Outer Wilds, man. Seriously, yeah, it's like Outer Wilds. Not only are you flying in a spaceship, you literally have a jetpack strapped to your back at all times. Why not? You look down, you can see yourself holding the jetpack flight sticks. So yeah, man, It's left unto us to create the games that we would love to have. Which, you know, if you have skills, then that's not really such a big problem. Cool. Why are you crashing? Let's see. Remote. Let's take a look at player. And inventory. We have item 0, and it's got nothing in it. Right. Why? Did we not pick it up? Is this not why we're here? Interact. Okay. Free slot. Print. Free slot found. Print S. And then free slot if it's not null. Actually, no, it's not found. If it's not null, then we collect the item data. I believe we don't have to duplicate it, but I will anyways. Let me actually print this as well. Oh, hold on a second. The item, generic inventory item. Generic inventory item has to duplicate, deep duplicate all the data instead of reference it, because once we destroy one mushroom, it also destroys the masternode data, I think. Sending up a new build to Steam, fingers crossed. Didn't miss any bugs. You know, don't wreck your previous depot. Okay. Left. Why? Why are you complaining? Invalidate index icon on base dictionary. Oh, well that's why. Well, what the shit? Is... Ah. Hold on. The super did not get executor. That's a not kuta. Super causes the parent script ready function to fire as well. And that's kind of what causes the item data to be stored. Boop. Oh, left click. Nice. Beautiful. And now, how would we like to display our inventory? Nice. All right, let's... Jeez. Oh, it's catching on to me. All right. Cool. What do we need? What do we need? What do we got? We need a player inventory. Whew. Okay, going down that route again. We've done that plenty of times. We have stats. Interact label. I think we're just keeping it here. Yes. Alrighty, let's do grid container. The indoor swimming, I know, right? It's like trying to run in the dream. Grid container. Let's do button. And then this is inventory item. INV item slot. I could have sworn we've done that already, but I think we've done that only for VR. UI, INV slot. Oh yeah, this is three-dimensional, so this is VR. Okay. Not a big deal. We're gonna have to be very careful with this. So INV slot desktop. So try as I might, it seems that for the mechanics to look pleasant, appealing, and not look like a half-assed, lazy-ass piece of garbage, it makes sense to develop the same mechanic twice. We don't have to do that for a lot of things. We have to do it for the inventory. When we play in desktop mode, the inventory can be displayed on top of the screen as a canvas layer item. Not a big deal. When we play with VR, we could go the lazy route and just take the same exact inventory and simply display it on top of a flat plane with some piece of garbage mouse laser pointer emanating from your hand. We could do that, but it would look like, well, exactly what I described. It will just look like a lazy ass projection. Maybe some fluff can be added with shaders, make it look 3D-ish, but I think for the most part, it's just gonna look exactly what it's described, just a flat projection. So for VR mode, we'll likely have to develop our own custom inventory system that floats in VR space. And yes, it is a little bit more work. Yes, we're technically developing the same system twice. We can make sure that any functions are, let's say, any functions that deal with item data or inventory dictionary are unified under one same location, so I don't have to program them twice. But other than that, the visual part of it has to be made twice. Okay. Now, inventory slot. What are we going to do with you? It's in the grid, so we got to give it a minimum size. Let's give it theme override, normal, style box texture. Maybe we can get away with just doing one. Nope, style box flat. Gonna make it transparent. Bit of a border. Okay, we'll just leave that as it is. Woo! Okay, well, that looks nice. Maybe we can display the information just beneath it or to the side of it. Let's see, bottom 10, 2. Well, that could work. Okay, now the border itself, give it a color, bluish. And then for the icon, quick load, mushroom, dimple mushroom. Ooh, okay, too big. Icon behavior, expand icon. Yes. Now, go back here. Interesting. So content margin doesn't work. Expand margin will push the item out of the view. Which, I mean, that could work. We'll have to account for that extra space, however. Okay. Like, say branch as scene. This is an object, UI, inventory, INV slot, desktop. Okay, and then we can see exactly the issue with the spacing. Thankfully, we can adjust the H separation, the V separation. Technically, when the player opens up the inventory, we can do this. Have it slide out. Okay. Beautiful. Now, let's give this panel a theme. Can't do that because this is a grid container. Grid containers don't have themes. Gotta make a panel container. Grid container in here. Inventory. Can give this thing a theme. Style box flat. Mm-hmm. Border width. Top. Let's do this. Okay. Now, if I want this rich text label to be placed over here, I think I'm gonna have to add a control node, which is unfortunate, but it is what it is. And then in the control node, rich text label. Let's call it label decouple. And now I should be able to freely move this rich text label inventory. Mm-hmm. And now we can move this thing around. Okay. All we got to do now is make the inventory slots do the thing they need to do. Let's attach script. Inventory slot desktop, that's okay. Scripts, UI. Nice. All right. So I think we'll need this. My slot number, my num. We need to get the inventory slot to figure out what number it is. So we do get parent, get children. within the children, we'll find ourself, and then that gives us an integer. So the position of ourselves among all the children, that becomes our number. In the process function, we also need to get the inventory node. So get owner, I think, should yield what we need, hopefully. And then if inventory node inventory has my number, then there's an item to be displayed. So the icon, let's do this, icon is going to have to be borrowed from this inventory slot. And most importantly, that's just a path to an icon. We need to load it. Beautiful. And then else, if there's nothing, null. Can't call method getChildren on a null value. Right. Can't call this that early. Have to wait until at least the ready stage. There we go. And then we go over here. Pick that up. We got the mushroom. And if we pick this up, we got the gun. Now that's a bit small. That's better. Probably the spacing is going to be messed up. A little bit. I'm going to have to make sure the icons are legible. Beautiful. There's no such thing as stacking just yet. We'll deal with that in a bit. Well, actually, you know, maybe I should restart a new video. Let's do 6. And we need to make sure that these inventory slots don't just exist magically right away. They need to exist according to however many inventory slots we have. So call this inventory grid. And then in the ready function, we have a variable that we created here called max inventory slots. In the ready function, we could just have it populated. Let's do this. Prep inventory is going to be a function. Okay. For x in this number of slots, we are going to have a reference to the grid, and we need to instance a new slot. So we have to preload it here. Item slot 3D preload var item slot desktop preload. Mind you, it's totally fine that we have to go through this process of doing the same mechanic twice, because I want Automicon to be VR and desktop compatible in a way that isn't just lazily put together, so it's okay to figure out in this one, so once we get to Automicon, we'll know what to do. Inventory slot desktop. Instantiate, make a new copy, and then add child, and there we go. So that should create as many inventory slots as, there we go. Invalid get index inventory based null instance. Right, because owner does not exist. Owner does not exist. If we instance an inventory slot, we can't use get owner to get the node. So we can, however, say new slot inventory node self. The player will just populate itself into it. Except we have to do it after we do add child. Come on. Don't freak out on me now. We'll do that. The ready function will get to run, and then it will know what the inventory slot is. Nice. Is that really 30? Yeah, that is. Interesting. All right. Now, does that not seem a little large? Shall we maybe go 40? 45 pixels? Okay. I'm going to keep it half transparent for some sort of like a holographic display type look. Okay. Nice. Now, shall we do stacking for the inventory? We might want to do stacking. Yeah, let's do stacking. That's fine. Okay, I'm going to have to start a new video. And there we go. Okay, so to get stacking done, we are first going to define the max stacks for these items. So, grab gun. Amount 1. Max amount 1. Dimple mushroom amount 1. Max amount 16. We're going to continue pissing gamers off with this power of 2 number. I don't understand why they can't just use a round number. Thanks for the stream. Sounds good, man. Appreciate the company. Need some grub? Try the brass lantern. Okay. Amount. Cool. So let's get to inventory slot. Okay. Since we're doing stacking, when the player picks up an item, we may not actually want to check. Yeah. We may not want to be checking first if there's an inventory slot empty. We could just handle it within the item give function. And if it fails, we'll tell the player it failed, and it's just not going to do anything. So, here. Find first available slot. We are going to comment it out. And master node, give item into inventory slot. Now that's not really accurate. Give item. Let's do this. We're just going to do give item. And give item is going to need the ID of the item. I think that's a proper key value pair. Item ID, yes. So ID of the item and amount of the item. Okay, now I don't know about you, but I actually like to see a nice yellow highlight on the key value pair. There we go. That's just more pleasing. Cool. So give item is going to work slightly different from grant into slot. It is going to first scan to see if such an item already exists, then check if it has already reached its maximum stack. If not, deposit into the stack. If it overflows, move it to the next stack, and it's going to keep doing that until it runs out of inventory slots. Okay. Now, let's go to master node. Oh god. I remember how long that function was. Give item, item key, item amount. So the first thing we need to do is we need to verify that we can actually fit all of this item into the inventory. So var item to test item amount. Test to see if it can fit into inventory. So make a temporary variable. It's going to contain the amount we'd like to deposit. Now, we know that we have to go through only as many slots as the player has. So we're going to do for, come on, slot in max inventory slots, which is right here. So we're going to check if we were to go through all the inventory slots, would we be able to fit this in? First of all, if this slot is empty, so if player inventory has slot, if not has slot, well then that's it. We just need to place the entire amount into this slot, and then we don't have to deal with anything. Now, okay, now wait a minute. If you have some empty space, you can pick up some of the items. Should we not just let the player pick up however many they can carry, and then the rest is just going to be remaining on the floor? I think that might be it. So in that case, we don't have to test. We just go straight into it and say if the inventory slot has nothing in it, then player inventory, we're going to access the slot number, make it equals to the duplication of this item, and then return. What do we want to return? Well, we want to tell the player that we've successfully placed it, but failing to place it could be two things. Either we entirely failed it or we partially failed it. So what can we include? What can we return to indicate to the player that success, fail, partial fail? And I'd like to keep it within the same data types. So we can say zero. So we can say maybe we return the remainder. Oh yeah, that works. We could just return the remainder. If we fail it entirely, then we just return the same amount of items we were trying to deposit. Return that no remaining. Okay, that's it. Next, if slot contains same item, so if the player inventory does have some item in the slot, and if player inventory slot ID or item ID happens to match the item key we're trying to deposit. Let's do this actually. Let's do not match. Continue. Not the same item. Skip slot. Okay. And then otherwise, same as item being deposited. These notes are for myself, of course. We're gonna go player inventory slot amount. So we need to deposit the amount that we're trying to put in. After we deposit it, we need to check if we had an overflow, more items than the slot maximum can carry. So if the amount is above max amount, I think that's what it is. Max amount, yes. Okay, if the amount is more than max amount, then first of all, the amount has to, we need to calculate the remainder. Which, honestly, to calculate or to store the remainder, we might actually have to take this, make a variable, because I don't think we can edit the content of this variable. Var items amount to deposit. Just copy that over. So amount to deposit is going to be equals to amount that we have minus the max amount. Next, the amount will become equals to max amount. And then the remainder is what we have left. Okay. And we want to make sure that we store this amount to deposit. So it starts with the full amount. We drop in the full amount, check if the amount has overflown the maximum. We calculate the overflow, then make sure that we remove that overflow. And now we're left with the amount to deposit. Okay. And technically that is it. Because eventually we're going to run out of inventory slots. So in the end, we just have to do if amount, or I guess we could just do return, reply back with how many were left after depositing. And that's basically it. Okay, now we have to go back to player, give item, and then we can do if. Yeah, I don't like doing this in one line. Let's do it like this. Get the remainder, and then if remainder is over or is 0, then we can queue free the item we're interacting with. And we don't need the rest of this. Okay, now for the sake of a test, I'm going to make the max stack be 2. Okay. Well, that failed. Duplicate on string. Item key. Right, makes sense. We're not supposed to duplicate item key. We're supposed to do item database, access the item using the item key, and that is what's going to get duplicated. Okay, and then if the item matches, then we don't need to duplicate anything. It's already there. Pick up, pick up. Well, that didn't work. Big fat liar. We're doing give item. Item ID, item amount. All right, let's trace it. Take. Yep. And then we're just going to continue until we take the second one. Okay, now I'd like to minimize. Cool. So we are looping through this. Step into slot should be slot 0. Player, inventory, hello. Okay, this does have one item in it. Dimple mushroom. Okay, so this it should skip. And yes, it did. Okay, so now if the inventory has this item with a slot, it does. Goes in, inventory slot 0, item ID, it checks if it's not the same. It is the same, so it should skip this. Yes. Okay, so now oh. Right. Okay, I think I know what I did wrong. After we deposit the amount, we have to return 0. But that guarantees we can never reach this point. We could say that after we deposit, if it overflown, then we do this. Else, if it didn't overflow, we return 0. Return no remaining. Breakpoint, right, makes sense. Okay, pick up a mushroom. Oop. Pick up another mushroom. Beautiful. Oh, yes. There we go. So that should skip that slot. What slot are we on? Slot 0, which it should continue. There we go. Now it says there's an item there, so it's going to skip that. This will pass. It is the same item now, because it should be a slot number 1, which has the mushroom in it already. Skip to it. Add. Has it surpassed the max amount? It has not. And then return 0, and that's it. Okay, so technically I could have proven that that was working without having to do all this tracking. Just run it. And let's see. There we go. Beautiful. So all we have to do now is make the inventory slot actually display the number. So we can do a rich text label. And I think I'm going to expand the design a bit. That's border. That causes the whole image to shrink. I gotta say, this is a bit of an awkward way of doing it. I guess we're committing to it. All right. Do we have a font that doesn't look like ass? We do not. Okay. Thankfully, the color of the text is no longer tied to the font. That's very handy. Now we can get rid of scroll active. Nice. Okay, so if there's nothing, amount text is going to be an empty string. If there is something, amount text is going to borrow the amount. I think if the amount is only 1, it shouldn't display anything. Oh, and we failed because we tried to put an integer into a text property. Okay. Get that string. You know, I'm not a fan of expanding outside of the region of the image. Let's do texture rect. Okay. Let's do a texture rect instead. So no icon here. No. There we go. Okay. Yeah, but we still have to adjust. We don't want it to expand. Expand margin 0, 0. Let's just do this. That looks kind of cool. Got a bit of an overlap. Can I actually do that? Let's see. What is the dimension right now? I need to make sure it doesn't get smaller. 50, 56, 45. Okay, and then this. Yeah, that works. It's kind of funky. Mm-hmm. Yes. Of course, anything that has a background in it's going to look weird, but that's only temporary. Boop, boop. Nice. Yeah, that works. Maybe while I'm here. Might as well. I just want to maximize the space on the icon. Okay, and then we'll just quickly pop into the previous one and copy the two lights. What the shit? It's the plane. There we go. Save. That's going to be better. Nice. Perfect. Okay, now I don't want the amount to be shown if it only has one. If like that. Could have used a ternary operator, but nah. Whatever. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, that works. Now, while we're here, and Godot decided to have an aneurysm. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. We're only 30 minutes in. Cool. All right. I just want to get something fancy in place. Like when we hover over it, the icon grows a little bit. We know that it's 20 by 20. We set the pivot offset to 10 by 10. Then scaling. Not? What? Oh, it's not actually. It's 50 by 54. Might as well make it 50 by 50. Like that. Beautiful. Okay, so now we need to detect if the mouse is hovering. Centered. Mouse exited. We're going to have a variable that keeps track if the mouse is in or out. False. And then in the process function, zoom on hover. Tell the icon to have, whoops, scale, smoothly transition between 1.3 if mouse is in, else 1.0 divided by 5. Yeah, this should be a fairly simple and cheap effect that will crash my game. Beautiful. Float to vector 2. Right. Zoom or scale is a vector 2 value. So we have to make sure we transition it to a vector 2 value. Okay, it would also help that our inventory could allow me to move the mouse around. So I suppose this is where we need to open the inventory. Do we have a button for it? Tracked. We do not. Oh, inventory button. Yes, we do. So right now it's I. Let's make it tab. Mm-hmm. Cool. So hide the inventory, first of all. And then in the player, we have interact process, interface process. Inventory button. Okay. If inventory is action just pressed, then I think right now, visible can just be toggled to be not visible. Okay, now, if we need the mouse mode input, mouse, whoop, mouse mode, it's going to be captured or visible. Visible if yeah, visible if the inventory is visible, else it's going to be captured. There we go. Mm-hmm. Do we not have a variable for inventory? Specifically knowing if the inventory is open. Master node. Pause menu open. We don't have one. let's do that. Inventory button. Okay, so inventory, the visibility of the inventory is going to be set to what the master node's inventory open variable is set to. And that should allow us to block off camera movement while the inventory is open. So I think input right here. If pause menu open or inventory open, return. Okay, we may want to have other stuff be executed in the input event, so I'm actually going to make a function called camera control process, and let's do that, camera control event. And that is going to be alleviated or returned when either the pause or the inventory is open. What are you complaining about? Oh, process, right, event. Mm-hmm. There we go. Take that. This thing doesn't detect it yet. Oh. I think something is covering it. I think that something is our developer panel. Dev panel. Ignore. And then this. Ignore. If not the dev panel, then something else. Well, it's definitely something else then. We have global UI, which is black, ignores. What else? Master node, which is just a script. So it's got to be something in the player. Stats cover the whole screen, but inventory goes after that. Oh, the icon, right. Always the icon. Ignore this. Same thing with the label. Is Sublinar is also story heavy? Yeah, it's one of my favorite game genres, narrative games. Not a fan of massive multiplayer or live events or nothing like that. I like the one and done experience. Okay. Okay, almost. What else are we missing? Oh, it's probably the oxygen displays and everything. Oh yeah, these things have taken up half the screen space. All right. Come on. What else do you want? It is stopping, so it's got to detect it. Oh. Mouse entered. Mouse in. Mouse in. Mouse entered inventory slot. Let's see. Let's see what this thing says. Nope. There's got to be something on top of it. I'm gonna hide the stats for a sec. Interesting. So something else yet. What could that possibly be? Oh, freaking label decouple. That could be it. It does sit right after. Yep, there we go. Nice. And then the item kind of zooms in and out. That's what we want it to do. Want to make sure that the style remains the same. Let's say if we hover, make unique. We're just gonna make the border slightly different color. Like that. And then the rest of them, like pressed. And that's it. Disabled focus. Hopefully this will be okay. I think focus has to share the normal. Nice. Now, we might experience a bit of an issue. Right now I'm using left click to actually pick up these items. But what if we hold, let's say, this tool? Well, technically, we would have to use left click to use that tool. So this kind of brings a bit of a dilemma. We have interact, we have pick up, we have left click to use, and we have left click to, or right click technically. So we got conflicts. We could base it on what it is we're looking at. If we're looking at something with the grab ray, that takes priority. Otherwise, the left click just makes you use the item you're holding. Also, just for good measure, so we can actually see something happening, let me place a small light source into the camera. There we go. Oh, that looks cool. It like eliminates our hands. And it's a fairly low range piece. I need to redo the texture on this kelp. Well, okay. We got some stuff, and it works. We got 44 minutes. Okay. So what have we finished here? Okay. Player local inventory interface. That's done. Taking out miner. Taking out remote fetch. Mushroom item. Technically it's done, even though it doesn't serve a purpose right now. It will. Crafting bench. Module. Equivalent. Inserting hydrogen cell into the vessel. So we're going to be using hydrogen as fuel for our vehicles instead of batteries, which is what we had in Subnautica. Hunger affects stamina, ability to swim. Thirst affects ability to see. Lightness, darkness, and distance blur. Basic fish. Kill with harpoon to collect. Harpoon. Cool. Well, I could put together an item, the hydrogen cell. Player local inventory. Desktop. Oh, this is one. Cool. All right, so you know what? That's fine. Let's wrap it up here. We've done 2 hours. Man, the entire Friday we've done 2 hours, technically including the music 3. Not exactly the productivity I'd hoped for, but yeah, it is what it is. I really have to like stifle myself from working on the same project multiple days in a row, aside from Dreadtail. I really want to work on this project. It's pretty much a rotating revolution of between all the projects. There's just going to be one project that I'll be like, I want to focus on this now. But, you know, unfortunately, not everybody operates this way, and I have to keep other folks' workflow in mind. Dreadtail's coming along well. Yeah, added new hands. They definitely look quite nice. Nice and textured. We've got, whatchamacallit, leather jacket, bare hands, finally. No more gloves to obscure hand detail under. We got bare hands now. With the presence of hands, we can do some very nice looking fancy custom animations, which I actually can't wait to get to that point, because you can establish some really nice cinematic looking stuff that makes the game have a much more professional presentation. And you can use those scripted events with custom animations to point attention to the most important parts of the story. Anything that warrants a custom animation is usually perceived as more important than anything else that surrounds you. Cool. All right. I'm going to wrap this up. Maybe, who knows, maybe watch a movie. I think that might be nice. And cool. That should be it. Thanks, folks. Appreciate the company. We'll be back.